3:17 a.m. I held the phone in my hands and everything inside went cold. The messages I read left no room for doubt. She had cheated, and worst of all, she cheated not just with anyone, but with the one I trusted the most. My business partner, my friend. They thought I wouldn't find out, but I did, and now it was my time to make a move. The doorbell rang, its sharp sound cutting through the suffocating silence. Sophia hesitated, her breath hitching in her throat. It was late, too late for visitors. Her hands trembled as she reached for the doorknob, fear curling in her stomach like a viper. When she pulled the door open, Chloe Martin stood on the other side. Chloe, Ryan's trusted confidant, the woman he had always considered his right hand. She was holding a thick envelope, her expression unreadable, her eyes colder than Sophia had ever seen them. "He's done playing," Chloe said flatly, her voice carrying the weight of something final, something irreversible. Ryan's made his move. Sophia's pulse pounded in her ears. Her throat went dry. What do you mean?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Chloe tilted her head, studying her for a long, unbearable moment. Then she stepped forward, forcing Sophia back into the house with nothing but her presence. "You thought he'd come back, didn't you?" Chloe continued, her lips curling into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You thought you could cry, apologize, and everything would go back to normal." Sophia swallowed hard. She had spent the past 9 days convincing herself that Ryan just needed time, that he was hurt, but that he would return, that the weight of their shared history would be enough to bring him back. But as she stood in the doorway, staring into the unforgiving eyes of a woman who had clearly been given instructions, Sophia knew she had been wrong. Ryan wasn't coming back. This wasn't just about him leaving. This was about him dismantling everything. Chloe held out the envelope. "Read it," she ordered. Sophia's fingers shook as she took it, her heartbeat hammering against her ribs. She fumbled with the flap, tearing it open, and pulled out the papers inside. The moment her eyes scanned the first few lines, she felt her knees weaken. Divorce papers, legal separation, a clean break. Everything had been finalized. Ryan had made sure she had no claim to their shared assets. The house, the cars, the business, everything was his. She had been erased from his life like she had never existed. Tears burned at the corners of her eyes. No, this couldn't be happening. She looked up at Chloe, desperation creeping into her voice. "Please, I just need to talk to him." Chloe's gaze darkened. "Ryan doesn't need to hear anything from you. He gave you all the time in the world to come clean. You didn't." She took a step closer, lowering her voice. "And now you're paying the price." Sophia clutched the papers to her chest, as though holding them would stop her world from crumbling. She had been prepared for anger, for confrontation, even for a fight. But not this. Not total obliteration. Chloe exhaled sharply, as if annoyed by the sight of Sophia breaking down. "You think this is the worst of it?" she said, tilting her head. "You still don't get it, do you?" Sophia's breath hitched. "What do you mean?" Chloe smirked, but there was no humor in it. "Ryan's not just walking away. He's making sure you understand what you've lost." Sophia's mind spun. What else could he do? What more could he possibly take? Then Chloe reached in her coat pocket and pulled out a small black USB drive. She placed it on the table between them. "Plug it in." Sophia's stomach twisted. She didn't want to. She didn't need to. She already knew what she had done. But something in Chloe's eyes told her that whatever was on that drive was worse than anything she could have imagined. Her fingers closed around the tiny device, her entire body numb as she took slow steps toward her laptop. She plugged it in. The screen flickered, files opening automatically. Emails, screenshots, audio recordings, images, timestamps, everything. The walls of deception she had built crumbled in an instant. Ryan had known everything, from the very beginning, and he had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Sophia let out a strangled gasp as a video file began playing. Ryan's face filled the screen, calm, emotionless. "I hope you understand what you've done before it's too late," his voice echoed through the room. Sophia pressed a hand to her mouth, her entire body trembling. Because now, she finally understood. Ryan wasn't just leaving. He was erasing her, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Part 2. 9 days of emptiness. Sophia woke up to silence. A heavy, unnatural silence that pressed down on her chest like a weight she couldn't shake. She turned in bed, instinctively reaching out, but her fingers met cold sheets. Ryan was gone. For the first few moments, her sleep-fogged mind tried to rationalize it. Maybe he was up early. Maybe he was in the kitchen making coffee or out for a morning run. But as she sat up and looked around, a gnawing sense of unease gripped her. Something was wrong. The closet door stood ajar. The space where his clothes should have been was empty. His watch, he never left without it, was missing from the nightstand. Sophia's breath caught in her throat as she threw the covers aside and stumbled to her feet. She moved through the house in a daze, calling his name, hoping, praying. No answer. She checked the kitchen, the living room, his home office, the garage. Nothing. Her hands trembled as she reached for her phone, dialing his number. The cold, robotic voice of his voicemail was the only response she got. The person you're trying to reach is unavailable. Please leave a message after the tone. Panic clawed at her chest. She tried again and again. Texted him. Checked his location. Nothing. He had cut himself off completely. She sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the dark screen of her phone, trying to make sense of it all. Had he really left? Had he found out? A sickening wave of realization washed over her. She replayed the last few weeks in her mind. His quiet stares, his distant demeanor, the way he had started coming home later than usual. Had she been so blind? Had he known all along? No. She shook her head, refusing to accept it. Ryan wasn't like that. He wouldn't just walk away. He was the kind of man who fought for what was his. He wouldn't leave without a confrontation, unless he had nothing left to say. The thought made her stomach twist painfully. She grabbed her phone again, scrolling to Ethan's number. She hesitated for only a second before pressing call. It rang twice before he answered. Sophia? His voice was groggy, like he had just woken up. He's gone, she whispered, the words tasting foreign and bitter on her tongue. A beat of silence. Then what do you mean, gone? I mean, he left, Ethan, she snapped, her voice cracking. His things are gone. His phone is off. He disappeared. Another pause. Then a sigh. Sophia, calm down. He probably just needed space. Maybe he figured something out. Maybe he didn't. Just give it time. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that Ryan would walk back through the door in a few hours and demand an explanation. That she would have a chance to fix this. But deep down, she knew better. Ryan wasn't the type to act impulsively. If he had left, it was because he had a plan. And that terrified her. Over the next few days, she fell into a suffocating routine. Wake up. Call Ryan. No answer. Text him. No response. Check the door. Hoping, praying. Nothing. By the fourth day, the house felt unbearable. The silence was deafening. Every corner, every object, every scent reminded her of him, of what she had lost. On the sixth day, she stopped sleeping. By the seventh, she started to break. And then, on the eighth day, she found it. The USB drive, tucked away in his office desk, inside a locked drawer that she had never bothered to check before. The moment she saw it, her pulse skyrocketed. Her hand shook as she plugged it into her laptop. A single folder popped up on the screen. Truth. She clicked it open, her heart hammering in her chest. What she saw made her stomach drop. Emails, photos, call logs, timestamps, conversations she had long forgotten about, or had hoped to forget. It was all there. Every lie, every whispered promise to Ethan, every betrayal. Ryan had known. He had known everything. A choked sob escaped her lips as she scrolled through the files, her vision blurring. Then she saw it. A video file. She clicked play. Ryan's face filled the screen. His expression was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that sent a chill down her spine. I hope you realize what you've done before it's too late. The screen went black. Sophia sat frozen, her body trembling, her mind spinning. Ryan hadn't just left. He had been planning his exit. And now, she had no idea what came next. Sophia stared at the dark screen, her pulse erratic. The message from Ryan echoed her mind, a ghost she couldn't shake. She had spent days drowning in uncertainty, but now she had the answer. He knew everything. The lies, the affair, the nights she spent tangled with Ethan while Ryan worked late. And yet, he hadn't confronted her. He had chosen silence. Until now, her hands trembled as she closed the laptop. The evidence on the USB felt like a ticking time bomb. What else had he planned? Had he shared this with anyone? The thought made her stomach twist. Ryan wasn't impulsive. He was calculating, precise. If he had left this behind, it meant he was controlling the narrative. She had no idea what that narrative was. A loud knock at the door made her jump. Her breath caught as she glanced at the clock. 3:24 a.m. No one visited at this hour. A cold dread crept up her spine. She hesitated, then moved cautiously, her bare feet silent against the floor. She peered through the peephole, and her stomach dropped. Ethan. She hesitated before unlocking the door. The moment it opened, he pushed inside, his face tense. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. His voice was low but edged with urgency. "Ryan's not answering his calls. Half his business contacts have gone dark, and now I hear whispers that he's making moves I didn't see coming." Sophia swallowed hard. She hadn't told Ethan about the USB, about the proof that Ryan had collected. She wasn't even sure if she should. I don't know," she lied, but Ethan's sharp gaze locked onto hers. He knew her too well. "You do know." His voice was quieter now, but no less dangerous. "He left you something, didn't he?" Her silence was answer enough. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "Damn it. I told you this was risky. I told you Ryan wasn't someone to underestimate." Sophia's frustration boiled over. "You think I don't know that?" she snapped. He walked away without a word. "Ethan, do you have any idea what that feels like?" Ethan exhaled sharply. "This isn't about feelings, Sophia. This is about survival. If Ryan's out there setting traps, we need to know what we're up against." She hesitated. Could she really trust Ethan? He had been her escape, her distraction from a marriage that had started feeling like a business arrangement rather than love. But now, she wasn't so sure. Ryan had been watching them, planning. And Ethan had secrets of his own. Finally, she turned back to the desk, retrieving the USB. She held it out. This is what he left. Ethan took it carefully, his expression unreadable. He walked over to her laptop, plugged it in, and began scrolling through the files. As the evidence unfolded before his eyes, his face hardened. "He's been tracking everything," he muttered. "Every message, every call, every time we so much as looked at each other." Sophia felt sick. It wasn't just the affair. Ryan had known about more than just their betrayal. He had been waiting, setting the stage. She had thought he would explode, confront them in a rage. Instead, he had disappeared, leaving them in suspense. That was worse. Ethan shut the laptop abruptly. "We need to act fast," he said. "Ryan isn't just walking away. He's coming for something. And if we don't figure out what, we're going to lose before the game even starts." Sophia's mind raced. What did Ryan want? Revenge? Power? Or something else entirely? One thing was certain. He wasn't done yet. Sophia's head spun as she processed Ethan's words. He was right. Ryan wasn't just gone. He was working from the shadows, setting something in motion. But what? And how much time did they have before he struck? Ethan ran a hand down his face, his frustration evident. "We need to get ahead of this. We need to figure out his next move." Sophia gripped the edge of the table. "How?" "He's always been 10 steps ahead." Ethan exhaled sharply. "There's always a pattern. Look at what he left behind, the files, the video. He wanted you to see it, which means he's not done yet." The weight of his words sank in. Ryan wasn't just exposing the affair. He was making sure they knew he was in control. But why? What did he want? Her phone buzzed, breaking the silence. She hesitated before picking it up. A message from an unknown number. A chill ran down her spine. Without a word, she opened her laptop and logged in. A new email sat in her inbox, subject line blank. With a deep breath, she clicked it. "You thought I was gone. You thought you'd move on. But this isn't over. It never was. Asterisk asterisk." Attached was a video file. Hands shaking, she clicked play. The screen flickered to life, revealing security footage. Her and Ethan in a hotel lobby, laughing, leaning too close. Another clip, her sneaking out of their house late at night. Another, Ethan touching her lower back as they entered his car. Sophia's stomach twisted. Ryan had been watching them for months. Ethan cursed under his breath. He's been collecting evidence. Not just the texts and calls, everything. Then the screen cut to Ryan himself. He sat at his desk, calm, collected. His voice was steady when he spoke. You've made your choices. Now you'll deal with the consequences. Sophia slammed the laptop shut. Her heart pounded. He's going to ruin us. Ethan's jaw clenched. No, he's going to try, but we're not going to let him. She wasn't so sure. Ryan had always been strategic, meticulous. If he had planned this far, what else did he have up his sleeve? Another buzz. Another message. Sophia's breath hitched. This wasn't just revenge. This was a game, and Ryan was waiting for his final move. Sophia's hands trembled as she stared at the message. Tick-tock. The weight of those two words pressed on her chest, suffocating her. Ryan wasn't just watching. He was waiting. He had a plan, and they were already caught in his web. Ethan grabbed the laptop and reopened the email. His fingers hovered over the keyboard as if searching for some hidden meaning, something they had missed. We have to find out what he's planning. Sophia rubbed her temples. How? He's too careful. He wouldn't leave anything obvious. Ethan's eyes flicked to the laptop screen, then back to Sophia. We're not going to find answers sitting here. The thought made her uneasy. You want to go looking for him? If we wait for him to make his next move, we're screwed. A deep fear curled in Sophia's stomach. Ryan had anticipated everything so far. If they made a move, he would have already prepared for it. And what if that's what he wants? Ethan hesitated, then shook his head. We don't have a choice. A sudden knock at the door made them both freeze. Sophia's heart leapt in her throat. It was too late for visitors, and after Ryan's messages, she wasn't willing to believe in coincidences. Ethan pulled out his phone and checked the security app linked to the cameras outside. He swore under his breath. It's Chloe. Sophia exhaled sharply. Ryan's most trusted confidant. She moved cautiously toward the door and opened it just enough to see Chloe's face. Her expression was unreadable. He's not done, Chloe said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. Her gaze flicked between them. Ryan always finishes what he starts. Sophia felt her throat tighten. What do you mean? Chloe crossed her arms. He's been planning this for months. Do you really think he'd leave loose ends? Ethan clenched his jaw. If you're here to warn us, then tell us what we don't know. Chloe sighed. You think he's only coming after you too? She shook her head. Ryan doesn't just want to hurt you. He wants to erase you. Sophia's pulse pounded. What does that mean? Chloe handed her a folder. It means that by tomorrow morning, your careers, your finances, everything you've built will be gone. Sophia's fingers tightened around the folder as she flipped it open. Bank records, company transfers, confidential emails, all traced back to her and Ethan, making it look as though they had been embezzling from Ryan's company for months. Ethan cursed under his breath. He's setting us up. Chloe nodded. And by the time you even think of clearing your names, he'll already be 3 steps ahead. Sophia's mind reeled. The affair had been a mistake, but this was something else. Ryan wasn't just making them suffer. He was ensuring they lost everything. Ethan grabbed the folder and slammed it shut. We need to get ahead of this. Chloe studied him for a moment, then looked back at Sophia. There might be a way. Sophia's breath hitched. Ow! Chloe hesitated, then said, Ryan's not the only one who knows how to play this game.